Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Comic Art Live with your host with the most, me. So nice to see everybody in here. You always start these chats early. Jeff, I saw you chatting earlier, and I had to throw my shade your way with the idea that I was finding ways to punk Anthony on some old clips of his. So I'm looking forward to debuting those tomorrow. I was just digging through some old Dueling Dealers episodes with some funny outtakes that they had. So there are lots of fun stuff coming up for tomorrow. But sorry to hear that you needed the barkeep, Mikhail. Long day for everybody, I'm sure. It's a good way to wind down with a episode of Comic Art Live and a nice drink. But of course, I always stick to water on the show. That's what I recommend. So, hey, let's, Marcus. Hey, Marcus, I was checking those Battissimo stats. I haven't shown those out in a long time. You are by far the most active and engaged person on this channel. I have to tell you, welcome back. And, but it's pretty amazing. And Jordan, talked to Jordan earlier. We got our Dueling Dealer show next scheduled with Mike Berkey for September. We'll have more information on that on Thursday. So without further ado, let me bring my guest into this program. Jason Wood, how are you doing this evening, Jason?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thanks so much for having me. It's pretty exciting. I've been a big fan of CAF for a long time. I was trying to know when I was coming in. I tried to look when I joined, and I couldn't figure it out. But I know it's been a long time. Maybe I don't know.
I'd have to go over to your CAF Gallery. I didn't have it loaded up, but I will get to it. And it was in the description, I think, on the show. I think it actually, I always write it as part of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't have YouTube open to look at it at the moment. Someone can
it's
tell
been a
us.
bunch of years. Yeah, I mean, I've been a premium member for at least 5 or 6 years, I think, and it's worth every penny for those that are on the fence. It's if you have even a passing interest in comic art, it's worth its money 10 times over.
Well, that is very true. And I actually had an email from an artist earlier today who was asking about the premium services and would it be worth it for them to have them to sell their art. And so it literally came in about 10 minutes ago. So I've got a nice email to write back to them to let them know that, actually, I mean, artists do fairly well on CAF, just, as a tool to market their art for sale. So, and see, everybody says 2011. I always write it down. I feel it's an important part of whom we're editing, but I never put the link to the gallery in there initially because when you create these records out of StreamYard and they post over to Facebook will take that URL and then make like a CAF logo be the default image for the video. So
I see.
So I leave it out, initially, and I usually forget to go back and edit it and put it back in afterwards. So while we're chatting today, I will definitely get your CAF Gallery linked up in the stream. So, and I've got it here right now. I'm going to just put it in there so everyone can check out your CAF Gallery while we are chatting.
Yeah, I know there are definitely different psychologies when it comes to CAF galleries, right? I mean, some collectors put almost nothing. Like if you get to know them, they have these collections, and you're like, I don't see it under CAF, and it's by design. But I mean, I'm pretty much an open book. I mean, CAF has definitely been part of the cosmic equation for me getting more and more into collecting. So I, every month or two when I have time, I sit down with my scanner and put pretty much almost everything that I've possess is in CAF in some way, unless like it's framed and matted somewhere and I just never got around to scanning it. But it's like 95% of my collection is up in there. So
fantastic. And I know you have a lot of artworks in your collection too, so that are on CAF. So that was quite impressive while I was going through it. So what is it? 622 commissions and sketches. So that's
if you say so. I mean, I think it's like around 800 pieces in there, give or take, all in, like about 200. It sounds about right. 200 pages, maybe published pages, and I'm definitely a commission guy first and foremost. I mean, I guess for some people, like 200 published pages would be a lot, but I mean, relative to my commission size, it's a small percentage. So
right.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't, big or small. It doesn't, personally, I love it when I see people who've been able to purchase and hang on to that many pages, whether they are commissions or published pages, because I mean, I couldn't, I know I couldn't. I mean, I don't have the space to store that many pieces of artwork. I think probably right now I might have about 300 pieces of art in my collection, but I wish I guess if I had a bigger office and a few more Itoyas and a flat file, I could probably have a few more pieces in my collection.
Yeah, I've never. There's only one time in all my years collecting that I've ever sold any art or given it away. And I think that we're going to have. I think one of the piece that I did that for is I think in the discussion tonight. But there was just a little mini grail that was up at the time when my wife was like, "How much is it going to cost?" So I said, "Oh, I'll do some trading. All these collectors, they trade, so I'll do that." And I did that. But generally speaking, it is never my intent to sell stuff. As you get along in your collecting career, if you were, and you start coveting certain pieces that maybe are higher priced or harder to get, like I'm definitely mentally open to trading away some of my collection for other things if the opportunity arises, But as you know, that's kind of like you're always on the lookout, but I can't predict when and if that happens. If there's 30, 40 published pieces out there that if I had the opportunity to acquire, I'd be willing to hand off some of my collection to get them. But absent that, I have no intention of selling them unless I need to.
Right. I don't blame you. I love collectors that approach the hobby that way, that aren't concerned about trading up or those sorts of things. Just they'd rather keep it. And, that's your mindset, and it might change 20 years from now or 10 years from now. But yeah, I don't know, really. I always kind of approached it as in a somewhat transient way, where I always felt like everything I owned may not be mine. And I was always kind of a seller, even when I was buying early on, because it kind of felt like when I was buying art early, I felt I needed to I had a set pool of money that I wanted to have in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And I felt I had to sell something to get something back. I think I've changed. I don't feel that way today, but really, like, the first 5 or 8 years when I was just getting into it, and I saw how much money you could spend even back then. Mm-hmm. It just felt like I was robbing money from the family coffer by making my art value of the value of my collection say be over $10,000, and I always felt like I had to keep moving a piece to get another one. So,
yeah, I mean, I would say certainly just as you get to know people in the hobby, I feel like I'm more in the minority, right? In terms of not being much of a trader. Like if you participate in the chats on your other live shows or dueling dealers, or you get to know people through CAF or at art cons. I mean, it's much more common for someone to say something akin to like, "Oh, I used to own that page," and mm-hmm. It's changed hands 10 other times, or, "Oh, I once had an opportunity to buy that page." And I think part of it, it's when I came in, I don't think I owned a piece of art, comic art, until maybe 2008 or 9, whenever the first New York Comic Con was. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't own a published page until 2010. So, I mean, that's it feels like I'm thankful I got in when I did, given how crazy things have gotten in the last few years. But certainly in terms of the right time to get in from just a natural appreciation perspective, it's very late, certainly. So I don't I just never was in. I think I came into the hobby a little late for that, like being able to like actively trade up to get other things. And then the other thing, like we said, the majority of my pursuit is commissions, and commissions are much less tradable and liquid than published pages, right? Regardless mm-hmm. of the quality of the commission.
Sure.
Certainly, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it tonight, but people, I mean, I'm good buddies with Felix Liu, who you did a great thing with the dealers a few weeks ago. I really was happy that you did that. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
And Felix and I always talk, and he kind of makes fun of me because he knows so much I have invested in my collection, and a lot of it is commissions. And, he'll politely jab me and say, you're the only person I know that has a collection your size and cost that, has like, in today's market, that's never going to get back what they put into it. And I mean, honestly, I've never bought a piece of art with any kind of expectation of making a profit. Mm-hmm. I buy art because I love it and it makes me happy. And I generally like to support. It's also about supporting the artists that I get the stuff from, or because I'm nostalgic for the piece, or I really like the series that it's from. And so for me, if I kick the bucket and my wife and kids have to sell the collection, sure, they're probably not going to get the appreciation they would have if I just focused on all published work all these years. On the other hand, they're still going to get, plenty of liquidity back, and it made me happy either way. So yeah, I've never really given the profit motive, has never been a driver for me, mm-hmm. which again probably makes me an outlier, right? I give almost no thought to whether I think something's going to appreciate significantly after I buy it.
Right. Well, Felix doesn't pull any punches. He tells it like it is.
Oh, for sure. That's why I love him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah. No. He'll be brutally honest with a straight face, and yeah,
and he's usually making fun of me as I'm paying him an exorbitant amount for a commission for one of his artists. So
right. Of course.
Yeah.
But hey, why don't we get to go kind of take a few steps back, because I screwed this up during Tommy's interview last week as well. But, asking you more about your origin story and what got you turned on to comic art in the first place. I mean, it sounds like the New York Comic Con might have been an early tipping point for you. But what was the what was the point where you went from comics or whatever it was before comics to comic art?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that vein, it's a pretty traditional origin story. I'm 46 years old. Started reading comics voraciously, like a lot of people, in the very early 80s, which is an awesome time to fall in love with comics, right? I mean, 83, 84, 85 were just magical, arguably one of the best, certainly the best time in modern comics history. So it just became immediately addicted. Happened to live in I live in New Jersey, but it was a pretty populous area where there were a number of like legit comic stores, even as a young kid. And I found one near our house and had a pull list and just became all in, like a lot of people. And then as I got a little older, graduated college, got a real job, started going out at local shows or going around to different shops in New York and looking for key issues, right? And just kind of that nostalgia bomb of trying to fill in runs of, I was a Marvel kid, so Avengers and X-Men and the like. And then CGC came along with slabbing. And I think like many people, it's like, oh, that would be cool to get like really, really collectible, high grade quality issues of stuff I care about. And I got into that for a while. Mm-hmm. And that kind of ran its course. Like I wasn't too passionate about that. Like I didn't really feel a connection to it as much. And then I have to give credit to, there was a comic podcast called Comic Geek Speak. They were pretty much the first people to ever do a comic book focused podcast, and they were out in Pennsylvania. And I was a big fan of theirs from early on. And they had a little mini convention around their show for their 300th anniversary, or the 300th episode anniversary, and went out to Reading, Pennsylvania, maybe another 200 or so people from across the country that liked the podcast. And they had a little mini artist alley, and I'd never seen anything like it. It was just a few artists that they had befriended, and it was a small show, and the artists were sitting around doing sketches. So I thought, oh, this is neat. And I got a few sketches, and I thought, oh, what a clever thing. But with no grand idea. And then, as I mentioned, that was shortly before the first New York Comic Con. And when I went to New York Comic Con, they had a much more sizable artist alley, and I just was fascinated by it. And I walked around, and again, with no real plan, or I didn't know a lot of the artists. I just went up and got a few commissions and had a blast, and just kind of that was the needle in the arm, And then from there, it's become much more aggressive and systematic, and it's been like with all things, there's been a lot of learning and fits and starts and figuring out what my process is and the kind of things I'm into. But yeah, that's, so I don't think it's that atypical, right? I mean, I think a lot of guys go from comic nerd to slab nerd to art nerd because it's like incremental, the rarity and the chase is that much harder, right? So once you get to art, it's one of a kind, and that there's really nowhere to go from there other than more expensive art, I guess.
Exactly.
Right.
No. I mean, it is kind of the most common story. You discover an artist alley somewhere, or there's a dealer at a show, and then the next thing you know, you're hooked on comic art. So no, it's very standard, but great. It's like we all come to it kind of in the same way for the most part, by and large. I mean, there are some collectors that I know that really, I wouldn't say they skipped comics, but started collecting both early on, and but that's more rare, to discover it.
And there's there's an entire new, probably larger group of collectors out there that have come in the last 3 to 5 years, as you know. And the good news is they're sending prices just skyrocketing. So that's great. I mean, if you own art already, it's fantastic. If you're still trying to buy art, it's not so fantastic. But, a lot of them, from what I understand, aren't necessarily lifelong comic fans. I mean, some are, but a lot of them are just interested in it as an investment and are getting into it that way. And, that seems like totally foreign and alien to me, but it's certainly very real. I mean, I think they're a real factor in the market right now.
Oh yeah, without question. I mean, I don't think they're buying every day, but they are dabbling in it. And I think that certainly is part of the reason we're having, the prices, driving up that we've been seeing of late. I don't think they're the overriding factor.
Yeah,
certainly. I think that,
Albert and the Donnellys can still wield their hammer when they want to, right, to get a piece. But but they have more
Exactly.
competition now at the Heritage, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that was always the big thing early on. I mean, my conversations with the dealers was that without shows, they were all turning to the auction houses a little bit more aggressively because they needed inventory. They weren't getting in front of people to do trades or buy art from buy out a collector here or there, or maybe go to an artist alley. And because I've worked with a lot of dealers, a lot of the first thing they would do at the show was leave me at the booth so they could go check out Artist Alley to see if there's anything they wanted to buy. And I mean, oftentimes they would come back with nothing, but that was really the cons were their way of just getting a little influx of inventory. Trying to race over to Mike Mignola's table at San Diego Comic-Con before the show opens and wait in line so you could get first look at his at his portfolios. So if you could get Quan Chang out of your way or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was that was kind of thing. And when they lost that, all they had left really were the auction houses and and their websites and that kind of thing. But auction houses were the easiest point of access. So yeah, that played a factor too, certainly in driving up prices as well.
I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard 50 times as many, but hearing stories over the years of some of these early people like Mandel and Albert who got in and, just at shows as kids, like just buying pages when no one even thought you should, like, what's the point of it? And, just the things that they were offered, or they had the chance to buy and said no to. I mean, complete issues of Watchmen for, a few $100s. It's just like, it just boggles the mind, and I will never see that obviously ever again, probably, but it's just still really fun. I could listen to those stories all day long.
Oh yeah, no, me too. That's there's a lot of older collectors I wish I could get onto the show that I've asked that are hesitant, but hopefully we'll be able to get more of that, because I love talking with Albert about his time in the hobby and Scott Doonbeer, both being dealers, of course, but big collectors as well. I mean, I think that they've got phenomenal stories that are so interesting and give us some insight in what the hobby was like before either of us. I mean, I started collecting in 99, 2000. And so, those guys were out there in the early 90s, late 80s in some cases. And yeah, no.
You still got in early enough, though. I mean, that was still, that was fertile ground, those first 5-6 years of your collecting. That was fertile ground.
It was. Sure. It was. I wish everybody knows I sold everything of value that I had when I built the golf course, but
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, biggest error of my my life. But but yes, I remember those days fondly. I mean, it's so easy to get a Burn X-Men page for under $5,000, and I owned 5 of them at one point. So it was a very good time to be a collector, and you still felt like you were spending a lot of money, but you look at where things were at today, or even where they were at 10 years ago. That was a great time. eBay was still really, really solid as far as a place to find good artwork, and while there was competition, it didn't feel as competitive. You felt like you could actually still go out and get a Miller Daredevil page if you really wanted one, and that's not the case today for almost any price, right? That you're going to find them on the market. So very different time.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few universal truths in our hobby, but certainly one of them is that people generally regret what they didn't buy versus what they have bought. Right? There aren't many of us that say, "Oh, I hate all these things I bought." It's generally the opposite, right? We had opportunities to buy, and either because the price felt egregious at the time, or we didn't have the money, or just for whatever reason we passed, and then you look back and you think, "Oh, why did I pass?" Right? So.
Oh yeah, no. We all only regret those things that we didn't purchase, but without question. And that's why I think that as strategies today, when the opportunity's there, people aren't they're not passing it up, and we're seeing more of that today, because it's true. I mean, there's certain pages that come out on the market that you're not going to see that opportunity again. So, and there are enough collectors that would be interested in that page that it's going to drive the price up to that 25% over what you think it should be, 50%, sometimes 100% because of that. So
yeah.
But it's exciting though. I mean, having been in the hobby for so long, this is definitely things have just turned on their head in the last 9 months, really, where it's not anything that I've really experienced before. And I don't think
it's been remarkable. It's been remarkable.
I don't think it's going to last forever. I think we'll get to a point where where it sort of levels off, and that we're just used to it, and these things aren't going on. But yeah, I mean, I'm still curious to see what's going to happen, for the next 9-18 months, really. I think it's as shows come back and and how that's going to change buyers, because you're going to be spending a little bit more money
Mm-hmm.
getting around, and that's going to have an impact on how much money you can spend. But yeah, it's fun. I like being a bystander, and taking notes and reporting and just watching what's going on. It's fun. It's fun to do that and be able to kind of be in that position, but also be a buyer again after all
Sure.
these years. So.
I was going to say my wife very much wishes I was a bystander instead of an active participant. But
right. And Johnny asked me if I was the first Phantom X. I don't know if I own that one. I did own the first, the cover to what was it, 114 of New X-Men. So the first Grant Morrison, Frank Whiteley.
Oh, you did. Very nice.
I did own that one for a while, and then and sold it for more than twice what I bought it for from Mitch. But it helped fund the mini golf. But yeah, I think about that piece today.
Yeah, whoever's asking that question probably knows I'm a huge Phantom X fan. I buy lots of Phantom X art, so there you go. Never had a chance to get that cover though. So whoever owns it though, hit me up.
See. You are after published art every now and then.
Well, it's funny. I mean, kind of because of where the market is right now. I actually did chat with my wife recently and said that I just think that. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to have like this crazy appreciation forever. I mean, but I do think there's kind of like a step change, a step function happening, and we're well into it. But I don't think it's over, just because I still think there's a big part of the populace that isn't quite aware of comic art yet. And so, with that in mind, I mean, I've definitely decided, and I've told a lot of buddies that, like, to whatever extent you have the liquidity or willingness, I mean, I'm going to definitely increase my published buying over the next year or two. Just because it's not like it's now or never, but I just feel like, we told ourselves, for people of my generation collecting, told ourselves for a long time, like, oh, prices are high. Let's see if they ever correct. And I just don't know that prices are gonna keep going up. They probably almost certainly won't. But I don't think we're gonna have, I don't think these prices are gonna drop in half either. I mean, if you look at the history of true collectibles, one of a kind things, whether it's fine art or antiques or anything, I mean, that just almost never happens. Sometimes vintages or styles go out of style, and there can be some price degradation. But so yeah, I'm planning on getting a little more aggressive on the published side in the next year or two. So fingers crossed.
All right. Well, Jordan just referenced. He said he's got the second appearance of Phantom X page and was considering selling it. So
right on.
If you're familiar with Jordan's,
I saw Jordan on the amateur dueling dealers with against was it Tatiana, right? So
no, Jordan was against Anthony last.
Oh, right. No, it was
and Dino before that twice.
Okay. So I saw him against Anthony, but I will do that. Jordan will do.
Yeah, Jordan is a very big first appearance collector. Likes to get.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, when he was on, I didn't see the first appearance, but when he was on the last one, I know pretty much everything he was offering was some kind of a first appearance or early appearance. So.
Yep, very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, that's you're right. I mean, I get where you're coming from. You need to focus on the published art while you can, because while I think prices are going to level off, and I think it is highlighted a comment where somebody said the lower stuff is definitely maybe kind of peaking. Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, we're seeing different changes even in with the Dueling Dealers show, where that's why we're doing a few more lower end shows, because I think that always focusing on the higher end pieces isn't where things are at. I mean, not that. I'm not saying people are tapped out with buying, spending $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 on artworks, but we had a lot of fun doing that $500 and under show, and it sold out, and we had new buyers for the first time. And
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you're going to, I mean, based on I've been on watched the last few shows, participated. I mean, but if you're going to have significant growth in the audience and the people who want to tune every week or two, I mean, you're going to have an inventory of more affordable pages. And I think you should always have the ooh and ah pages that people are fine that they can't afford them, but it's neat to see them. But I mean, but if 70% of the show is that, it's difficult for people, right? Because they want to, when you go to an auction, I don't know if I'm sure you've been to live auctions, you have your paddle, and even if you're pretty much not going to be in the running for most things, you still like the idea that something may come up and the animal spirits take you where it's affordable. And so, I do think that's an important pull.
Yep, without question. So we're doing another $500 and under show on Monday with Mike and Anthony together from that one, and we have several 1,000 under shows that are coming up, because it's either up against the Anthony and Mike show, or there's an upcoming heritage auction. So we're definitely just going to start experimenting more with that, because at the end of the day, I want those guys to sell out all the time. I mean, it makes for a more fun show at the end of the day. I mean, it's not it's not about the money for me anyway. I want to have everybody walk away happy with a piece of art and everything sell, and that's one way to do it. And I think if we can encourage more people to watch the show because the prices are lower, I think that's a good thing. And fortunately, a lot of people agree with me. I got a lot of emails after that show from collectors who just feel like, my limit is $1,000. So I usually turn the other one off after round 4. So
I forget. It was Tim, right? Tim something bought like 20 of the pages of that last $500 round.
Tim's Tim's in the chat tonight.
Because I don't have it on today because we're talking here on the other app. But I was. I mean, I'm sure I was marveling at it. I was picturing him sitting in a hotel somewhere on a business trip, just with a nice Cabernet, just saying, why not? Just like
right. It was a fun show. I mean, I think and so we're gonna do more of those. Yeah, I think I just think, again, having 2 people sell out of everything they bring, that's really what it's all about. So.
Yeah, and I mean, there are tons of other reps and dealers that I'm sure would love to get involved. I know you only have so much time, so I'm not trying to tell you how to do your show, but I'm saying I'm sure there's almost an unending amount of different types of dealers that would be happy to like match up against one another because they're what they offer are relatively similar or in the same kind of genres. It could be fun, over time. I'm sure Anthony and Berkey want to go on vacation every now and then and take a week off. So.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, trust me, I'm open. If anybody wants to be on the show, I mean, I've now that we've got things figured out, a format that actually works well. I want more people to approach me to do the amateur shows or dealer show, and and Mike and I are actually going to do a thing on Saturday where he had a set group of artworks that he was going to do an art drop on Sunday. So I was like, well, why don't we do just a preview show on Saturday? You might pre-sell some stuff, but for the people who are on the channel, they get to see what you're going to put on your site on Sunday. Let's just try something a little bit different, an art drop to see if that works, where it's not like we're not going to do a recap and lower the prices. Maybe he takes an offer, but it's really more just let's just try selling art or showing off art for sale in a different way, and in a way that's kind of a bonus for those people who watch the channel. So I'm just trying. I'm trying to experiment, just find different things that works. We're not going to play any memes during that. It's just going to be Mike and I at his place together. Believe it or not, we won't be doing it separated like this. We'll just be hanging out, looking at art, talking about it, and for an hour and just hanging out on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, sounds great.
So, why don't we look at some artwork? Because you did send me quite a few images. So
sure.
Let's go with, I believe you said this one was your first piece of art.
First published page, yeah. So that is a page from the 3rd issue of the first volume of Marvel's Wizard of Oz series that was drawn by Scotty Young, and the book was written by Eric Schanauer, and they won an Eisner. Well, they actually won 2 Eisners for it. I wanted to show this because it's not, if you know Scotty, and it's funny, Scotty's become one of my closest friends in the hobby. And I met him back then when he was doing Oz. But I mean, this page isn't particularly like important to the story, and it's not a particularly detailed page. I mean, if you're familiar with Scotty's more modern work, it's not quite as cartoony because it was an adaptation of existing work, but I just wanted to bring it up because sort of it felt like good karma, because really it is the match that lit the powder keg. I had gotten some commissions, some more sketches, really, like I had said, over a few small shows, and then I was at a small show with Paolo Belfiore, who runs Cadence Comic Art.
Right.
Yeah, he had just gotten started. This was his first. It was one of his first shows, if not his first. He had a small table, and we had some cocktails the night before, kind of hanging out with some of the people that were running the show, and hit it off. And so I went over to his table and was looking through his Itoyas, and he was repping Scotty at the time. And I was a big fan of the book. I was reading it to my kids, so it just was kind of like kismet. And these pages were incredibly affordable in retrospect, and it was very much an impulse buy. And I just thought how cool it would be to have it and bring it home and get it framed and matted and put it in one of my son's rooms. And that's what I did. But honestly, that was my first experience working with a rep and a dealer and buying a published page. And it's hard to believe that was a little more than 10 years ago. And I think about where I am and what a voracious amount of time and passion and money I've put into the hobby since. So I just thought it'd be cool to show off sort of patient X, if you will.
I think Well, I've always held on to the first piece of published art I bought as well. It's one of those, I think it was only $85, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to let it go. It's an Ian Churchill X-Men page, but
Nice.
not even, yeah. And it's just, you remember that, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was an eBay purchase for me. Before that, I had purchased a few, I think they were, like character drawings. And so I was, getting closer to published work, and I picked up a few pieces in an artist alley. But yeah, that once you have it, I mean, I never want to let it go. I will keep that one forever and never will sell it, because it was that moment that really, was a turning point for me as a collector. I felt when I picked that piece up.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think it was $250 at the time, which, if you know Scotty's prices these days, it was a great price, and happy to have it. So,
no, congratulations. You got to start. Have you bought from Cadence since that time, or was it?
Yeah, no. I mean, I have, because I get so many commissions. I think pretty good relationships with all of the larger reps these days. Certainly Paolo, and I mean Felix is a good buddy. Cam and Inky Knuckles, Jason at Essential. I'm a very frequent customer of all theirs. So, I'm frequent. I'm a frequent customer.
You should tell them they should start doing like punch cards, like a coffee card after.
That would be great. Each one of them. Listen, this because you work with some of the dealers in the reps building their sites. I mean, everyone has a very different approach to the business.
They do,
in terms of honestly, I mean, I love them all, and I think they all have great collections of artists, and they all do great by them. But I mean, Felix is like the most. He's like a cold-hearted killer when it comes, and I appreciate it. Like as a, I'm in finance at my day job, and so I love how Felix, I consider him a close friend now, but it doesn't give me any edge when it comes to one of those drops, right? I mean, whether you're someone with a $10 million pool of liquidity that Felix has known for 30 years, or you're literally someone who just found out about his site the day before, you have an absolute equal opportunity to get his art. And I really respect that, I really do. But yeah, all the reps are great. They're all great. And it's been fun to see them and evolve. And, certainly like when Paolo started Cadence, because he predates those other guys we just mentioned,
right.
There weren't a lot of reps that had like big rosters of artists. Artists generally were a little haphazard. I don't think they wanted to give up the VIG, the percentage to a rep all the time. They weren't sure it was worth it. And, you think about where we are now. I mean, it's just light years different. I mean, I think almost any artist that gets any kind of renown and popularity gets a rep pretty quickly, and I think that's changed a lot. I mean, I think now if you're a modern art collector, you have to know and transact with the reps. I don't know how you could get around it.
Yeah, no. There was a period of time, definitely in the science fiction fantasy world, with the artists there, where they had gone through a period of representation where they were mostly with gallery owners, and most of them got screwed. So a lot, I think this kind of spilled over a little bit into comics in the 90s, because that's when I think the main period of that was, where people never got their art back, and you heard story. Honestly, I mean, when I think about it early on, that was very common thing you'd hear, that some dealers still had some of the art that, and I wouldn't give it back. And you don't hear those stories anymore. I think that the hobby, as far as art representation, has become much more, pure, and you don't have any kind of shenanigans going on like might have happened in the 90s or. So at any rate,
right. It's and part of it is modern technology and internet and web, cloud-based accounting, right? I mean, there's full accountability now. It's easy to transact cash flow. I mean, and also the reps play. They wear a lot of hats now. I mean, all of these reps haven't had to deal with it much because of the pandemic, but certainly I think one of the reasons reps have proliferated is because they've taken over the con scene, right? Artist Alley is no longer a place where most artists just kind of set up a table and put up their wares. I mean, these reps get a block of tables, and it's really convenient because they have people that will let them, get off from their table, and they'll watch their stuff, and they arrange commissions, and they arrange sales of art, and they bring the inventory and clean the inventory and set the tables up. And they and bluntly, they are able to negotiate attractive appearance fees now, which is a relatively new thing, at least again pre-pandemic. And I assume it'll be coming back as cons are desperate to get artists to come out and post pandemic. So I just think they're a much more holistic service provider now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean personally, I don't know many artists that don't think that they're worth the let's say 20% that they get, on average. I think.
Oh yeah, no, that's completely true. I mean, for those that use representation, they're worth their weight in gold. I've always said that I'd rather have my artist drawing versus worrying about packing and shipping. So,
and as a collector, it's been great because I can tell you that the nightmare stories that I guess still do happen to some people, but I haven't had a bad experience with a commission in years. And a part of that is the accountability of the rep, right? The rep is there as a throat to choke. It is their job to make sure that your art doesn't get lost in the ether, that it's done to the right standards, that it's kept safe in transit, that it doesn't take 5 years to deliver. So I love that, because when I was starting in the hobby a decade ago, like many, I had a lot of bad experiences. In part was because I wasn't experienced myself and how to handle things on my end to make sure that I wasn't going to. But there were terrible experiences with artists, and sometimes it wasn't that artists were most of the time it wasn't that artists were bad people or were jerks. It was that they're artists, and a lot of them are flighty, and they also they're freelancers. So they would get a job and then get another job, and they would lose track of things, and they'd intend to make you whole, but they wouldn't. And the next thing it's been a year, and then they have other commissions to do, and it would be a frustrating process. And that really doesn't happen much anymore, at least with repped artists, because the reps make sure that won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I completely agree. I really do. I never really had any bad experiences, but I've heard of many, and certainly people have gotten bad reputations here and there, but yeah, by and large, I'd say we're in a much better place than we were 10 or 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I can tell you that even during the pandemic, there were some reps and artists that were still getting those exclusivity appearance fees to do the online shows and that sort of thing. So it was still going on very hot and heavy, because when we started the first Comic Art Live, it wasn't very, I didn't hear a lot of that. But by the time we started prepping for the November 2020 show, there were people that we had talked to early on that had already signed like exclusive things with certain, I won't say, with which ones.
Right.
They were in the fall. And so they couldn't even appear on a panel,
wow. Okay.
Much less allow their rep to be exhibit during Comic Art Live and show their art, which I thought was crazy, because it wasn't like they could really make any sales, in the other online venue, but it was both selling art and appearing. So it was it was kind of, I don't know. I didn't care, because I was like, really, you'd rather go to that where you're just, it's not really, you're not going to sell anything, but the appearance fee and the exclusivity that they want is more important than really like getting out to the fans that are really the art buyers, at the end of the day, that is their customer. But it did happen. It happened with a few people. So, it's because I worked with I actually helped one of the bigger cons do their online show last fall, and it was more of an advisory role, and they ran into the same problem. Even though that if the show were there, they probably would have been there. They would have had booths and everything like that. But it came to online, it was contractually not possible. Yeah, so it's an interesting time. Because that stuff you would never hear that happen. Appearance fees, sure, but exclusivity in online live streaming, who would have ever guessed something like that would happen? But the cons were desperate and definitely opportunistic, and were willing to flash some money around. So it didn't make our shows any less, but it was an interesting approach to things.
Yeah, as we get back to in-person cons, I'm definitely very curious to see how the artist alleys look. It's a mixed bag, and things change so quickly. I remember just a few months ago, a lot of artists and reps saying, no, we're not doing, 2022 at the earliest, is just not going to happen. And then people get vaccinated and they remember the financial opportunity of going to a con, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe I'll do a few shows. So we're going to a few shows in the fall. I'm going to, New York is our home show, so I'm going to New York, and then we're going to Emerald City in December, out in Seattle. And so, but neither have announced their artist alley lists yet. So just kind of going blind. It'll be a great time to hang out with friends and see these cities anyway. But I have no idea what the scene's going to be like. I hope it's robust, but I have no idea.
Right. I'm curious to see how things are going to go too. I really don't want to get out until 2022, but I'm antsy. I went to this Ditko. They said it was an art exhibit. Really the only artwork that was there was work that Mike had loaned them, and a few small pieces from the family. But they had a lot of like photocopies of Spidey 5 and a few other important books and things that he had done. And but it was well attended. It was like this exclusive opening event because the show actually opens this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was like 250 people in Johnstown, PA, the kind of podunk middle of nowhere, and it was really well attended. So it's nice to see that people want to get out and support the arts. And there were no art collectors there other than
okay. Mm-hmm.
But it was just an interesting scene to see something like that. So I'm optimistic that the shows are going to do okay.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We're also big fans of Heroes Con, and
mm-hmm.
It hasn't happened for 2 years now, and next year will be their 30th anniversary. So I'm hopeful that because it's been gone for 2 years and it's the 30th anniversary, we'll have just a massive group of artists that want to go back. I mean, it's a super art friendly show. If people don't know, it's one of the most art collector and artist friendly shows that there is, and so really excited for that one too.
Yeah, no, I'm planning to go to Heroes in 2020.
Oh, excellent! Oh, great! Yeah, that's great.
I haven't
meet in person, IRL, as they say.
Yes, so. I haven't been to that one in probably, I don't know, I'll say 12 years. But
okay, yeah.
But I went there for like 5 or 6 years in a row, and then stopped because of the golf course. I lost.
This is a story I'm going to hear. I mean, as I think, I read the description. You have agreed graciously to come on my podcast next month or so, a month or two, and I'm much more used to interviewing than being interviewed, so that's why I'm talking a lot. But I definitely need to hear about this because you speak of it as if everyone knows, but this is the first I'm hearing of it. So
it comes up a lot, yeah.
Okay,
but I'm trying to get out of it. I'll be out of it soon, one way or another, I think.
Right.
But before we move on, I wanted to thank Odala here because he became a new member on the channel. It's something that we just had as it's just a different way for us to generate a little bit of revenue and kind of set it and forget it way of like tipping me every month. So
I hadn't seen. I feel old now. I have 3 kids. I mean, I'm not a huge YouTube consumer, really, honestly. I mean, it's great. I don't like actively. One of my co-hosts of my podcast, Vince, is just like that. He doesn't watch TV; he just watches YouTube. And I think a lot of people like that. I'm not like that, but I have been checking out your stuff lately, and I've been really. I noticed the the way you can tip, and during the Felix show, I know a bunch of people threw money, but like that's a really neat new feature that they've added. And
it is, and it definitely it's their way of kind of the people who work really hard, because you can't even accept tips or get members until after you have 1,000 subscribers. So you have to have a track record of wanting to be consistent with YouTube, and it's their way of rewarding you. And so
it's working for them, Bill. They reported Alphabet, the parent company, reported their earnings today, and YouTube made $7 billion this past quarter. Up 84% year over year. So these little tip jars are working for them.
Oh no, they really are. And then all the ads and everything. I mean, they
of course,
they do rev shares on the ads, but no, they do really well. And so before we move on to the next piece of art, I'm gonna at least acknowledge Samuel Rojas, Jason. Always thank you so much. And bootlegging is a habit. Thank you. One and all, I do appreciate it. So let's look at some more art because
let's do it.
That's what we're here for. And this is like an interesting set of pieces. So let me pull this first one up.
Okay.
And it would have been better, I guess, to have cropped it so I could have shown the whole piece together. But that was like the top, and that's the bottom half of this. The way.
Okay, yeah. So this one, like this is a I guess you'd call a jam piece. So. One of the fun things I've always found is when you're at a con and you're at Artist Alley, it's often hard to get on as many commission lists as you'd like because they fill up very quickly. Like if it's a Thursday through Sunday show, on a Thursday, artists will take a big list and then it'll pretty much be full for the rest of the weekend. So I started. I wasn't the one who invented the idea of a jam piece, but I saw that and I thought that's a great idea. So. I always have a handful of these thematic jam pieces that I bring to shows, and they're great ways to get artists to contribute art to your collection without having to break the bank, but more importantly, if they don't have the time. It's probably hard to see the perspective as people are looking at this, but this is a Bristol board with 12 different head shots on it and a logo. And so each headshot is the size of roughly a business card. It's not even a 4x6. It's smaller than that. So they can be done very quickly. And I've found that if you're not afraid of a little bit of conversation and smooth talking, you can get even a lot of artists who have full lists to jump on something like this because they think it's fun if they like the theme, or it won't take long. So you can kind of see, like, I guess what we're looking at now, this is an Avengers villains theme piece, and I have almost 30 of these in my CAF galleries. Some are in process, some are finished. This one's finished. I take them around until they're complete. And then the reason I wanted to show off this one is because not only is it complete, but you see that it's in color. And the cool thing about that is certain artists do just pen and ink. Some offer to color. So after I'm done a jam piece, I'd say it's usually about 50% of the contributions aren't colored. So then what I'll do is I'll bring them to a show and have a comic colorist do color commissions to finish them off. So that they're all in color, and that's what you see here is you see one that's been completed by a colorist. About half of it was colored by the illustrator, and the other half was colored by different colorists. So and similarly to collect, there you go. Okay, so there's an Avengers one and an Avengers villains one, and each of those is a different artist that I met at a con. And then, as I said, about half of them are then colored by different colorists. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry I wasn't chatting. I was trying to feverishly put that together in Photoshop.
No, perfect. Yeah, it's great to see it that way. I know it's seeing it blown up, seeing it full size is better because it gives people perspective. And I just have fun with them. I mean, I have all kinds of different themes. Like I have a Cannonball Run one that I'm doing right now, and I have a Marvel Bronze Age one, and they're all in the CAF Gallery, but they're just a blast, and it's a way to then get art from people, as I said, that you otherwise might not be able to, either because their lists are full or they just don't do full commissions, so it's pretty cool.
No, I completely agree. And what did Marcus had a question. It scrolled by on me. Why on board and not sketchbooks?
I just like to display it better. I just like I've never liked sketchbooks personally because it's enclosed in a book and I can't look at the art easily. Mm-hmm. So Bristol's a larger size factor. It's easier to transport, bring them around. So I usually have 5 or 6 of them at a con that I'm bringing around to different people to work on. And then also I'm by no means an artist or a creative, but I have had fun. If you look at my CAF, you'll see the very earliest jam pieces I did were sort of hand-drawn logos with very rough hewn. And so I just taught myself the basic rudiments of Photoshop and then figured out how to print overlay. And I got a bigger printer. And so now I can print right on the Bristol. And it's just fun. It's just a fun way to make the con experience go a little, a little more adventurous. I spend probably 90% of a con in Artist Alley chatting with friends and artists. And so it's just a nice way to fill the time. Sure.
And that's a decent question from Samuel. Has there ever been sticker shock when it came to an artist price or fee? I mean, sometimes they will have it listed on their table, sometimes not. So I don't know. I can say I've been surprised every once in a while, but I mean, not in a negative way. I mean, I think anybody that I've ever wanted to approach, even if unless it was really out of my price range, I would still go ahead and get that convention sketch anyway, even if I felt it was a little bit high. But because you never know how often you're going to get in front of somebody.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say that the answer to that has changed a bit. I mean, I vividly remember in the early like New York Comic Cons and whatnot, when I started these jam pieces, for example, like the first 2 or 3 that I did, I think I paid almost nothing for them because they were relatively novel. A lot of artists hadn't seen them before, and they're tiny little. So, and I had some prior relationship with them, or friend of a friend, and I'd say, hey, do you want to do this? And they'd say, oh, I'll do that real quick, and they do it real quick while we're chatting, and say, oh, it's on the house. And then as they became more popular, it became $20, and then and then $40, and now lots of people do them, and obviously people's lists fill up just generally speaking for sketches quickly. So yeah, I mean, but like with all things, the key is just being upfront, right? I mean, I have politely said no to prices before. I mean, like Bill Sienkiewicz, for example. I mean, Bill's an all timer, and I think I bring him up because, as you probably know, Bill, the funny thing about Sienkiewicz is he has no standard pricing. Sometimes he'll quote for like the same thing, he'll quote one price and then he'll quote 10 times that price the next time you see him at a con. Or half. He just has no rhyme or reason.
Mhm.
So like one time I went up to him and wanted him to do a jam, and he quoted me like $200. And again, it's a business card size thing, and it's Bill Sienkiewicz, and I just said no, I'm okay, thanks, and I passed. And then a friend was at a con a month or two later, and he did one for $20, for a much larger form factor. So it's just, yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying no as long as you're polite. I mean, it's a business transaction. So I've passed on things before, for sure, absolutely. But I will say that in terms of like bigger finished con sketches, I mean, that's changed a lot, because I think gone are the days when you just walk into a convention and walk up to an artist and say, "Are you sketching?" and then they tell you a price. I mean, generally speaking, most artists, whether they're repped or not anymore, are trying to have price certainty. It costs them money to go to cons, and most of them take pre-show lists to at least fill up their coffers in some way, and their prices are pretty standard. So I found it less and less where you're just kind of walking up to a table and getting random pricing. I mean, it still happens for younger or unrepped artists, but I think generally speaking, most artists are pretty regimented these days about their pricing.
Sure. I would agree with you there, 100%. So I'm just curious, what was the last show that you went to before the whole pandemic got started?
I guess, yeah, it would be New York. I guess the last New York, because we were ready to go to Heroes, which would have been June at the start of the pandemic, and obviously that didn't happen. Yeah, it must have been New York, because that's usually the last show of the calendar year that I do. So
have you done a lot of commission ordering, virtually in the last 16 months?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, this is going to sound like a selfless act, but obviously it's very selfish in that I'm collecting art. But when the comics industry shut down, effectively, right, not just cons, but as we know, Diamond shut down, and a lot of the publishers massively curtailed the catalogs. And unfortunately, a lot of these artists are freelancers, and so they went to basically not making any money. And many of them weren't even eligible for federal funds. They were eligible for unemployment per se, but they were, many of them were eligible for a lot because they are freelancers. So anyway, I thought, well, what can I do? And I talked to my wife, and she's always been very cool about my collecting. And I said, I'm gonna like get as many commissions as I can to help, just to support artists, And so, I'm very data driven, so I have spreadsheets and all this stuff. And I looked, I think I got close to 180 commissions during the pandemic. Mail commissions. Yeah.
But that's great. I felt the same way. I felt like when everything started, we had to find ways to put money in the artist's hands.
Right.
Going through the reps, or it was going direct. And I felt the exact same way. And that was the drive for doing the first Comic Art Live and everything too. I just felt, like we got to find ways to generate commerce for these people, because not everybody can be Jim Lee and doing the big charity drawings, but it was great. It was such an amazing time to see so many people trying in their own way.
A total win-win. I mean, an absolute win-win. I mean, I'm getting amazing, fantastic art and helping them, at least in a small way, as others collectors were, of paying their bills and keeping alive while the industry was frozen. So I love it. I mean, I love how global the whole thing is now. I mean, I got a piece from Brazil today that opened an hour before we started the show, right? I mean, that was in transit for a month. It's great that you can order art from literally all over the world now. It's very easy.
Very true. So you've commissioned 180. Have you gotten them all in, or what's the?
Those are received.
Oh, those are received. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's absolutely amazing. I'm very very impressed.
Listen, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a win-win. I mean, there was an opportunity, and people they didn't have deadlines to hit, and they weren't going to cons, so they had the need and the time to do it, and it was just I just took the opportunity to go ahead and get busy. So
awesome. Well, let's look at some more art. As we near the 1 hour mark. This is going along smooth, man. And that you are. I can't wait till we do our other talk, because I can see you have the experience of getting in front of people and chatting. This is fantastic. You got great stories too.
All right, great. Well, happy to. Hope I'm not putting people to sleep. It's a little early to go to bed, at least on the East Coast.
Yes, it is.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Well, so this is the piece I hinted at that. All right, so some context here. For those that don't know what this is a it's a published page. It's by Rob Liefeld. It is a splash page from his X-Force run. from issue 9. It is, as you can see, Domino standing over a beaten up ne'er-do-well. And so what people that are watching this that know me in the art hobby know me that I'm the Domino guy. I mean, I have a massive collection of Domino art, both published and commissioned. I think I own at least 300, maybe close to 400 Domino commissions. She's my character, my art muse. Generally speaking, if I'm going to get the first commission I'm going to get from an artist is going to be Domino. And yeah, so Rob created her, certainly. And so this piece came up for auction through Comic Link 5 years ago, maybe. You could check on CAF. I have the date, but for those that are watching along, but when this came up for auction, because people know me as the Domino guy, I got deluged from other collectors. Hey, Jason, did you see this? And this is not the most important Liefeld New Mutants or X-Force page, but to me it may be the most important, because I think, personally speaking, out of all the issues that he did, this is the most prominent Domino splash. There's no other image of her that he drew where she's the center focused piece. I think this is the best example of his work for if you're a Domino fan. So when it came up, I had to have it. And I remember I was actually at a charity event, a charity casino event with my wife, and I said, there's this page coming up, and I'm going to get it. It's at auction. And she said, she's not an art collector, but she said, well, wait a minute, if it's at auction, you mean you're going to get it? And I said, well, that's what I'm telling you. I said, in this case, I'm just telling you I'm going to get it. It will be mine. It was my point to her, regardless of what it would take. And so you probably know, I mean, there's a handful of very large collectors that collect Liefeld stuff, or really all the image guys. And so I was a little worried that a few people out there would want this page and money would be no object. But fortunately for me, I guess on that particular auction, they had other things that were piquing their curiosity, and I was able to get it within a price range that I was didn't have to get a divorce over. So, but yeah, this is my favorite published page that I own, because again, to my mind, it is the greatest single example of a Liefeld Domino that's ever been made.
Yep. Nope. I would agree. And yes, I know many of the X-Force collectors that you are alluding to, and you're right. I mean, they've
like if Fish wanted it. I mean, for those that you can go on he's on CAF, and he owns all the covers. I mean, 87, 100, 90. Like, he owns if there's an important Liefeld cover, he owns it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I benefit from that, and he probably just not interested in interior pages much. I mean, he's got all the covers, so what does he need them for? But like Robert Kirkman is a huge collector of stuff, and listen, I've been fortunate in life, but I don't have Walking Dead money, so actually Felix was like, oh well, it'll be yours if Kirkman doesn't want it. I said, oh, he doesn't want it. So it actually came down. I had I had a max bid in the system,
mm-hmm.
and it went for my max bid. So there was a chance I could have been sniped at the last second. I would have been heartbroken. I would have upped the bid too, but we were out. So I put in a max bid that was substantively higher than when I put it in, and I thought, okay. And then I came home and checked, and I won, but I saw that I won at the max bid. So it was fate. Fate said it was meant to be mine.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's every time I go over to Berkey's house, he's like, dig in one of my bins. I know I've got a couple X-Force 1 pages. I swear, he knows he got them in the past, and he doesn't think he sold them. But in all the bins that I've dug through at his place, we have yet to find.
How great would it be to have so much art that there's X-Force 1 pages that you're lost in the ether, and you're like,
I know. Oh my God,
it's fine, whatever.
it kills me, but he makes me look through a bin, at least one bin, every time I stop by to film some memes or something. And he's like, I know they're here, I just can't find them.
I just bought from Berkey for the first time. I bought a Paul Ryan Captain America page with the Serpent Society on it. I'm a Serpent Society Mark too, so he had a nice page. It wasn't too expensive, but it was nice guy. Berkey seems like a nice guy. I've never met him in person, so.
Yeah, no, he's fun, but yeah, he's always like he's got an objective usually every time I go there where I have to do one thing, but it's been this
It must be a treat to be able to look at his collection. Like guys like that. I mean, it must be just mind blowing. Yeah.
No, it is. It's definitely. I'm like, hey, but it's cool because I'll pull stuff, going through stuff that's none of it's on his site at all, and I'll know collectors. I'll be like, hey, you should take a picture of this and send it to Jason or my friend James Siegel. Hey, this is right up their alley, and so it's fun in that way. I mean, I found a few pieces that way myself, but it's just looking at the art. Is really what's most fun. I mean, he I think he likes to season his artwork and just let it.
Nothing breaks my heart, Bill, more than like doing a search on CAF for like many collectors. I have keyword searches and I'll like do a keyword search and I'll see pages and I'll think, oh great, and then I'll see they're in cool lines like that. Like I'm like, oh, they're in a vacuum. That's never happening. Never getting them.
Exactly. I know how you feel. Trust me. Many of my searches end up at that same doorstep. So, and I'm done right there.
So say we all. Yeah.
And Jason says he's still waiting for his call there. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jason. I promise you, one of these days, a page will be yours. All right. So next up on the list here. Yeah, I mean, So when you asked me to give you some representative art, I mean, I thought, well, it was really hard to figure out which domino art I wanted to show off because, like I said, I mean, if I'm known for one thing, it's collecting domino art, right? So I could have easily we could have done a dozen images of domino stuff, but this kind of killed multiple birds with one stone because another thing about my collecting is I generally do have certain artists that I just adore their work to the point where I get lots of stuff from them. And so this is both of those things. It's a beautiful domino, but it's also by Matteo Scalera. And I have probably 15 pages of published and commissioned work from Matteo. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to show this off because, I love a lot of my domino commissions, but this is certainly up there in the pantheon for sure. Yeah, no, that's a beauty. And I love Matteo's work as well. So yeah, congratulations on that. Thanks. And we'll just show a few here in a row. Here's a good one. Yeah, so this is cool. I mean, a couple things. This is by Mahmoud Asrar, longtime awesome Marvel exclusive artist. I met Mahmoud back before he was working at Marvel, and was one of the first US people to buy art from him. So we've been buddies for a long time. And he when he does cons, he does a pre-show list, and he's got a very distinct commission style, and he almost never does dual figure commissions. He prefers to do single figure commissions because they all have kind of like the same aesthetic, and I have a bunch of those as well. And so I guess repeat customer loyalty. I talked him into doing a multiple character commission for me. As you can see, it's Domino and Phantom X, and I have a bunch of commissions of them both. Phantom X is certainly one of my favorite male characters to get commissions of, and Domino again is my favorite female. So I love this one because not only is Mahmoud a good buddy and an amazing artist, but it's rare to see a Mahmoud commission where he's got multiple characters. So very nice, very very nice. And this is a Dragotta piece. It is, yeah. I had to represent Felix on the show. This is, and one of the great things about this one is, I generally speaking don't. When I get Domino commissions, I ask to not draw her in her 90s style headband and Liefeld look, because I kind of feel like I already own the representative image of that look through that splash page. But I didn't put that limitation on Dragotta because he's Dragotta, and he did this piece where he did it, and so if you look through my CAF, you'll see again hundreds of Domino images. Very few have her in this look, and so I think it really stands out for that reason. And also I love that he did it this way because it is got such great character, and you probably can't see on the scan, but like the gun is all is like overlay. It's so it's got really great texture as well, and he did the word balloon and the sound effects. It's just an amazing piece. Dragotta's an incredible artist, and full disclosure, his commissions are very very expensive now if and when he does have a list open, but I felt like this was an absolute must have when I got a chance to get on this list. No, it's a great one, and yeah, I've kind of looked into the commission pricing as well, so I can
I mean, if,
confirm.
Felix Felix knows what he's doing. He understands supply and demand.
Yeah, without question. Now I was going to show the next piece of art, but then someone did ask a question that is related to it, and now I can't find it. Oh, there it goes. Rodney wanted to know if you plan on any literature pieces besides the Moby Dick pieces of vision.
Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, I think we'll get to that. Yeah, no, I mean, probably not. No, I think like a lot of us, I'm not just a comic fan. I love literature and books, and it's a never-ending frustration to me that I can't get my kids to want to read books. But I guess that's a generational thing. But yeah, I mean, there are a few novels that I just hold very dear, and I have like tattoos of them. Like I'm a huge Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan.
Sure.
So like I could envision at some point getting like a really cool commission of something along those lines from somebody, like a Bergara or somebody like that would really have fun with that kind of cosmic thing. But no, I mean, generally speaking, I think I have enough themes. So one literary theme is enough.
All right. Well, let's look at a few pieces from that theme.
Sure. Yeah. So this is really my newest theme, because I think a lot of us, I mean, a lot of my commissions are superhero centric, comic centric, and certainly Moby Dick is not it's not comic-y, but as I got into the hobby more and more, and I as I mentioned, would get like multiple pieces from different artists or certain artists I just really coveted. I thought, well, I just had this idea of, well, what if I got these comic artists I really like to do a non-comic illustration, and I assume some would be into it and some wouldn't be. And I've been really pleasantly surprised, because I can't think of an artist I've approached that has been not into it. It feels like it excites them to to tackle a non-comic conventional concept. So yeah, so I have a bunch of Moby Dicks. I have a separate CAF page in my CAF gallery just for the Moby Dick pieces. And the cool thing about the Moby Dick pieces is my wife, again, is super awesome, and she doesn't mind me collecting, but she's always limited my ability to display my commissions and published pages to our third floor, a bottom floor of our house. So like that floor is full with framed art, but the top two floors of the house, she's never really been keen on displaying the comic stuff. But I did win her over with the Moby Dick. So a lot of these Moby Dick pieces are beautifully framed and matted in our main living space, because she's cool with them because they're more literary. But this is the latest one. I actually just received this scan is from the artist, but I actually just received the physical piece yesterday. Wow. This is Troy Nixie, and Troy is an awesome artist. He's repped by Inky Knuckles, by Cam, and the scan doesn't do the piece justice in just how much detail. I mean, there are tens of thousands of individual ink marks, line work marks, hash marks in this page. I mean, the texture is just phenomenal, and it's oversized as well. It's 12 by 20, so it's just an impeccable piece. I mean, it's almost so good that I don't know that if I'm almost feel reluctant to get more Moby Dick art at this point. It's such an amazing work, and I'm so grateful to have met Troy through Cam and be able to get in this piece.
Dang. So how Marcus wanted to know, how long did it take to get the commission from the time that you?
Not long at all. I think this was part of the COVID deluge. I think I got on the list, Cam, if you're watching or listening, I think I got on the list last October. So October 2020. And like I said, I received the piece physically in hand yesterday. And the piece was done probably about a month ago. So what is that, 7-8 months, which is totally fine. And again, to be clear, I mean, that was the deal up front. It wasn't like, I mean, that was a totally acceptable timeline. When I got on the list, he had several other people ahead of me. And so I knew the piece could take even a year or longer, and I was fine with that. So totally happy with the turnaround time and all that. Did I give, I see the question from Johnny. Did I give art direction? I did a little bit, actually. So I generally am against giving art direction to creators on commissions, because I just feel like I'm ultimately looking for their artistic vision. That's why I'm commissioning them. But occasionally I will. And with the Moby Dick, I definitely do, in that the main thing is I ask for it to be whale-centric. A few artists with these pieces, they'll give me a lot of them will like give me multiple rough sketches or outlines, to before they get started on the and Troy did that. He had a few ideas, and one of the ideas he had in mind was more of an Ahab centric piece, and I'm sure it would have been breathtaking. But I did ask, hey, listen, I'm sure that would be awesome, but would you mind making it more about the whale? Because that's the allure for me. And he was totally cool with it. And then he came up with this. So sometimes I do, yeah.
Well, no, that one's that's simply amazing. I love Nixie's work a lot. So congratulations.
He's one of those people that he puts he's so meticulous. It's probably to his own detriment, right? I mean, because I think this piece took him. He was live blogging as he was doing it, as he does a lot of his pieces. I mean, this took him weeks to finish. I mean, this was certainly on a cost $1 per hour basis. It was an absolute bargain,
So you were kind of you're following his progress, and
I'm totally ambivalent. Like, some artists will say, "Hey, do you want to see in process shots, or do you mind if I post them online?" Others will say, I'm not going to show you until it's done. And I'm with whatever. I mean, my thing and as you know, I mean, you're a living embodiment of this, being able to show off their work, and have content to keep their brand alive is so important these days that I'm totally fine if they want to show a step-by-step drawing it. I'm not going to be upset. Like, I won't feel spoiled. I can easily just avoid their socials if I don't care. So I'm ambivalent too. Whatever works for them works for me.
Sure. All right. Well, here is one other Moby Dick themed piece.
So I put this on for two reasons. One, it's another amazing Moby Dick piece. But two, since I am having the great pleasure of talking to you tonight, I thought it was only appropriate that I put my most viewed and most liked CAF image up on. So this is far and away the most viewed piece in my 800 plus pieces of art on CAF. This is Daniel Warren Johnson, another Felix crew. Now, one of the cool things I'm proud to say is I do get, one of my favorite things to do is commission artists when they're relatively early in the game. And DWJ is one of the many Felix artists that I got art from before they were rep by Felix, which is good for the wallet. But this was not. This I arranged through Felix. But yes, this is a Moby Dick piece, as you can see, where DWJ basically makes Moby so gigantic that he's taking up almost the entirety of the image, and it's so creative and so jaw dropping. I know that among my collection, this is like one of the pieces that artists will tell me, "Oh, dude, that DWJ piece is just phenomenal." So. Daniel's one of those people that like other artists love his work. It seems like he's got amazing cred among his own crew, and so I had to show off the most prized possession in my CAF gallery, according to fellow CAF members.
Yep, and you have a really large scan as well in your CAF gallery, so that makes it even better. You get a good look at the detail in that we can't really normally do. Through,
you can see, right? You can see like the brush strokes, and you can see yep. Yeah, no, I mean, Daniel's an incredible artist and so creative. So just had him on my show, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just had a chat with him on our podcast.
Well, we feature a lot of his artwork
in
the daily emails and in my CAF updates every week, just because it's always the most viewed. I mean, people really, really love his work.
Yeah, when we were when we arranged this chat, I went and looked at because I don't often look at the metrics on my CAF per se, but I went to the premium dashboard and I looked, and I was I knew about Daniel's piece being atop the list, but I was surprised. I mean, my Moby Dick pieces are certainly they are the ones that are in the aggregate appear to be the by far and away the of most interest to other collectors. I mean, like the majority of my Moby pieces are in the top 25, 30 of all my pieces, it seems, in terms of interest and likes and comments. So.
Right, and I would think that even has like a broader appeal to people who enjoy illustration art. I bet you.
Sure.
We probably find that Google is driving a little bit of extra traffic your way too, just because of the theme and the fact that it's an illustration. And I love that. I love when artwork kind of transcends comic art collecting and really brings in new people to the site. So having works like this on CAF, I wish we had more. I love things that kind of bend what your expectations are, by coming to CAF, and I find that really turns people onto the hobby or turns people onto CAF in ways that that wouldn't normally draw people in there. So again, thank you for posting those too.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things I'd say is that I really love this idea, and we're seeing it now, which is lovely. Is that people are starting to understand that there was always this strange line where comic art, whether it be published or not, was viewed as lowbrow, right? Like because of its history as production material, and many people thought for years that we'd finally get to a point where it was starting to be respected as a significant medium, much akin to fine art. And I know a lot of people were skeptical that would ever happen, but I think it's happening now. And I'm not, I'm not saying that we're going to have, Kirby pieces going for Monet prices, but I do think we're getting to a point where a larger part of the broader art community is recognizing this as art, and that these creators are phenomenal artists. I mean, sure, the majority of what we ever see of them is published comic work, because that's their job and that's how they make their living. But I just think it's a lot of fun with these creators to have them, give them the chance to do something that's totally out of their realm, right? Because listen, I'm sure that a lot of people, Jim Lee from everyone, have made a tremendous living drawing Batman a trillion times. Frank Miller can do a 5-minute little head sketch of Batman now for thousands of dollars, and that's awesome. But like at the end of the day, I think a lot of people every now and then like to be challenged to do something different. Whether it be a quirky character or a weird theme or something literary like this. So yeah, I'd love to see more of it too. I hope other people kind of take that baton and run with it.
Oh, thank you. I sincerely appreciate it, and I think people are buying. I'm always impressed with some of the work that pops up that I wouldn't expect to see. That collectors really branch out. I mean, they love all forms of art. So just I have a fondness for science fiction, fantasy art. So more of that kind of thing that comes onto the site. I really enjoy that. So yeah, CAF has definitely become the melting pot for all forms of comic or illustration related works, and I think that's fantastic. Animation. I mean, there's a lot of animation.
Yeah, and comic strip art now, and seeing more and more of that, which is great.
Completely agree. All right, let's. We've got a few more pieces here.
Sure. So, although I am the Domino guy, there are certain other characters that I collect as well. Not in the same volume as Domino, but I guess relative to what other people get commissions of, I still fairly heavy collections. This is Beast, certainly Hank McCoy, and it is by the great Alan Davis. And one of the cool things about this is, well, first of all, it's Alan Davis, which is cool in of itself. But one of the reasons I want to highlight this as an example of my Beast collection is that Alan was this interesting, one of my favorite art creators of all time, and I did have the good fortune of meeting him at many cons over the years when he would come to the U.S. But he always has this process, or at least usually has this process at a con where you have to wait in line a very long time, and you have to stay in his line, and then if you get up to his line, he will do a penciled head sketch for you, and you can't leave the line. You can't take doesn't take a list, and that just doesn't ever work for me. So I've just never been able to get a commission from him. I do own some published pages of his work, fortunately, but then because of the pandemic and Alan wasn't going to cons, his friend rep reached out and was taking a list, and I passed on the list the first time and immediately regretted it. Like one of those, again, you regret what you don't buy. It was I was like, I bought a bunch of things at an auction like a week before, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna get on this list. And then I saw the pieces like 3 or 4 months later. The pieces were done, and he inked them, which was amazing because, again, generally he has people like Mark Farmer ink stuff. Even his commissions, he'll take the pencils and Farmer will ink them. But because he was working from home, he also inked the stuff. So I see these commissions come in, and I'm just blown away. And I'm sure like a million other people think, God, I wish I had gotten on the list. Fortunately, unfortunately, the pandemic has continued, but fortunately, as an art collector, that then allowed Alan to do another list, and his rep was nice enough to hit me up because he knew I'd kind of hemmed and hawed the first time, and I said absolutely, and this is the finished product, and it's just absolutely everything I could have hoped for and more. It was an instant, immediate. I got this piece maybe 2 months ago in the mail. It immediately became one of my all-time favorites, and I will cherish it forever. I'm in the process of getting that one framed, and I can't wait to have it in my office.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, Alan is one of my favorite artists, and
Yeah,
I don't own anything by him, but that, yeah, I mean, wow.
And the same week that first list came out that I passed on, Walt Simonson took a commission list through his rep, unrelated, but for the same price. And I passed on that one, and unfortunately, he didn't take a second one. And his was, and actually, in retrospect, that was really, really dumb because, as you know, Walt just doesn't do. First of all, Walt doesn't sell his art. Any art you see out in the ether that's Walt's published is from his inkers that he gave. He gives the third. So Walt doesn't part with his art. Number one, so it's a very tight supply, and then two, he doesn't ever do finished commissions either. He does little quick sketches at shows. So this is like unheard of to get a finished Walt Simonson piece, and he banged them out really quickly, and they're beautiful. And I kept hoping that he would take a second list, but he didn't. So, and now that we're all thawing out and getting vaccinated, I assume that was probably a once in a lifetime opportunity that I passed up.
I think so too. I mean, if I had heard that, I would have done it no matter what, because you don't want to compete against somebody when you're in an auction, and you might not be really getting a piece that you really want. I mean, if it's a Thor, hey, everybody's going to want that, but but that opportunity to really say, this is what I want, in a commission, and let him draw it. Wow, that would be hard to pass up.
Yeah, well, regrets, right?
Hey, well, you never know. An opportunity could come.
We'll see. You never know.
Wow. That's I'm disappointed, man.
Listen, me too. Blame the timing of these auctions, right? It's like, sometimes with your Wednesday night, people maybe bought something on that Heritage Wednesday auction earlier in the day, and they're like, I can't jump in. And this was like that. I bought something at auction like days before both of those lists went up, and just thought, oh no, and but it is what it is. It's fine.
Yeah, no, you can't have everything, and I'm sure whoever got it is incredible.
Oh, they're great. Happy. A bunch of them are on CAF. I mean, a bunch of them
are
on CAF. They're amazing, and yeah, congratulations to those of you that had the forethought and the budget at the time to do it.
Yes, very much so. So let's look at this next one here. Another Phantom X. Yeah, beautiful.
Yep, just want to show off some Phantom X art because he's another character I do get a bunch of pieces from. This is by Eric Canetti. So again, I tried to keep pieces to show off pieces that didn't just kind of hit one sweet spot of my collection, but multiple. And I'm a massive fan of Eric's. Eric, like Mateo, are both repped by Jason at Essential Sequential. And much like Mateo, I have probably no, actually I know this. I just bought my 10th Canetti. This isn't the 10th, but I just procured an X-Force piece from him that was my 10th Canetti. But Eric doesn't do a lot of interior work. Eric doesn't do a lot of published work. Hasn't for a long time. But he does amazing commissions. And pretty much every con that he's going to be at, I get a commission from him. And and so this is a Phantom X by him.
Yep, it's a beauty. I love Eric's work. Yeah, you definitely have great taste. I saw that ML, he loves Quietly, and I checked your gallery, and you don't have anything in your CAF gallery from Frank Quietly.
I don't. And so here's the funny thing about that. The opportunities I've had to buy Quietly, it's generally pencils, and I almost never buy penciled art. I love the pop of the inks on the wall or in my portfolios, and so for me, I generally avoid pencils. I did just break my own rule of not buying penciled art like 2 weeks ago because of David Rubin. I don't know if you're familiar, but David Rubin. He doesn't have a lot of art. He doesn't sell a lot of his published work. And I'm just a massive Rubin fan. And there was a gallery called Yojimbo in Spain. He's a Spanish artist, David, for those that don't know. They've had in their inventory for some time, like 8 to 10 published pages of his different work. And they're all penciled. And I just thought, with the market being what it is, and like I said, I wanted to sort of up my published game. I thought, you know what, I don't know that I'm ever going to come across inked published pages by David. So I bought two. I just ordered. I haven't received them yet, but I bought 2 pages of his published stuff, and it's penciled. And then what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to scan it in Blue Line. And I'm going to have an inker ink a Blue Line scan of it, and I'll have both. So I'll have an inked version and the original penciled version.
Very nice. That's great, and a good explanation for why you don't own any Quietly work. So
yeah. I mean, yeah. I would love to, though. I mean, he's an incredible, and one of those. Quietly's one of those people. Like if you follow the lines, like whether it be a Neil Adams would certainly be one, but Alan Davis. But like, I think a lot of people have are of the Quitely school, right? Like they have an aesthetic. A lot of illustrators working today have an aesthetic that I think was born out of being a fan of Quitely's work.
Yeah, without question. Yeah, I think that he's very influential, and I actually love the fact that his work is more in pencils now. You don't see too many, the newer work, just because I've always appreciated his pencil work, and I think that sometimes the inking got in really you lost a little bit of Quitely when depending on whom the inkers were. So I don't know. I mean, I like his work in pencil as much as I do in.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, there are plenty of people out there that only buy pencil art, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of the cool things is that we all can and should find our little niches, right? So that we're not all competing with each other. So
sure.
For me, generally speaking, if it's pencils, I let it go past. But yeah, I mean, Quitely, I would definitely consider breaking my rule there. Honestly, in person, I had a chance to buy some All-Star Superman pages in person years ago, and they were penciled and I didn't. And it's just because I'm not. I mean, I read lots of DC comics, but I don't generally collect DC characters for art. So I just it didn't. I love All-Star Superman is an amazing work. I love the story, but it didn't fill my heart with joy to own those pages. So it would have just been again like, oh, I should own some Quitely art versus, oh, I love that page.
Right. Well, no, you got to that's perfectly appropriate the way to approach collecting, right? I mean,
sure.
I've been looking at a lot of stuff lately where I want to have representative examples, but it's tough to try to settle on what piece I'm going to get based on whom the artist is, because some of them I'm not I never was a big reader of the comics that they did art in, but I want a piece. And so I've been in a quandary with a few people like Gene Colan. I don't have anything by him. And I see a lot of that over at Mike's house. And when I go through the bins, and it's like, oh, wow, Tomb of Dracula is really nice. But, well, there's some nice DC pieces here as well. And and because I'm not really attached to any of the stories that he wrote, I'm finding it difficult to settle on, oh, this will be the piece that I want. That'll be my representative Gene Colan piece.
Yeah, and I have to say, probably again because of the consideration of when I started collecting, I have largely avoided, with few exceptions, like that Domino piece, like the buying the older published nostalgic pages. Not because I wouldn't love to own them, but I've just always felt like they are price prohibitive in a lot of cases, and so it's been an itch I've been okay not scratching. But every now and then when something comes along I will just like to have something where it's like, I own a Buscema Avengers page that's from his second run. Buscema is my favorite all-time superhero artist, even though he hated drawing superheroes. And that was just because like it was available, I had the funds and I bought it. And it's not a particularly important page. It's not a particularly great page relative to others, but I just wanted to have a Buscema Avengers. I didn't know if I ever would, and I thought, okay, well, if I get a better one down the road, great. But if not, at least I have something. So I had like those little karmic buys. I actually just picked up a Jack Davis little sketch at Heritage. It's just like a cartoon he did for a magazine. But I just love Jack Davis. I love the EC guys so much. And so it just felt like good karma to finally have a Jack Davis piece, and I still aspire to have something a little bit more in my wheelhouse of stuff, but it's just great to have some like little things like that. But generally I'm pretty good at avoiding the nostalgia pull just for the sake of it. The piece has to speak to me in some way.
Right. Well, that's the quandary I'm having. I will say, I think I've actually settled on a Doctor Strange piece by Gene, though. I mean, I'm not 100%, but I said, set this one aside for me and let me look at it again the next time I come over there. And, nothing super special, just atmospheric and everything that you'd want out of a Gene Colan piece inked by Palmer. So, I mean, I'm like, yeah, that might be the one.
Awesome.
All right. So let's look at this one here.
Yeah, so I picked this one because, well, first of all, this is another Phantom X, and it's by Dyke Ruan, and you have it upside down, believe it or not, because he's actually falling out of a building. No, but that's okay. No problem at all. But the because you can see where the moon is. But the reason I picked this one is, number one, it's a beautiful piece. It's fully watercolored, and Dyke did the coloring as well. But I think it's cool because, as I mentioned, one of the things I've had a lot of fun with in my collecting is being willing to commission artists before they are household names. Just because to me, it's about the art. So if I see an artist, whether it be stuff I've seen online, or I read a comic and it's some of their early comic work and I like their style, I will very much proactively reach out to them and see if they are up to a commission. And many times they are, and many times then they go on to big things. And Dyke, I think, is a current example of that. He was just putting out banger commissions for a good 2 years, and he was just quietly building up buzz, and we all were just very sort of patiently getting on his list and getting these awesome commissions. And there's a bunch in CAF for people to look at his name. It's Dike, first name Ruan, last name. But now he's a Marvel exclusive artist doing monthly Marvel books. So. It's just fun. I just thought it was fun to show off that you can very much get amazing pieces of art that even do become worth more because artist profiles raise, if you're willing to trust your aesthetic and not worry about the name meaning something. I have lots of art that I love that are by creators that haven't broken big or never broke into the comics game the way they'd hoped, but the art is stunning. And and again, I buy art because I love the piece, not because of what it's going to be worth, but if you are passionate about art and are willing to take a plunge on not big name artists, you can find great bargains and build up a beautiful collection that you can adore without having a crazy budget. And then over time, some of them will break big, and you could sell it or trade it up or use it and package it because they have name brand then, but. Or you can just have great art at prices that, would cost you a lot more if you commission them now. So, yeah.
Sure. Well, you're going to laugh, but it's upside down in your CAF gallery because I saved it right out of. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I even went to look. I'm like, how did I save that upside down? Because I just went in and right clicked and downloaded.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, that's true. I gotta fix that. I'm gonna fix that as soon as we're done the show. I'm gonna fix that.
Because I was like, man, how did I do that?
No, that's my. I guess that's my fault. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Sorry,
well, it's the way who knows, but yeah. But that's why I thought, because there was a piece that we had from someone a few weeks ago, and it was purposely tipped upside down.
Okay.
And so when I first saw it, I just thought, oh, it's just playing with perspective, and I didn't really think too much of it. Well,
there we go.
Hey, I'm sure there's plenty of artwork that is upside down or sideways on CAF.
There we go.
A lot of guys actually, take pictures of their art with their phones, and many times it'll make the bottom be, based on how they.
It's when because you had it blown up, and I saw Dyke's name was upside down in the corner where he signed it, and I thought, oh, but so there you go. I must not have noticed when I loaded it in the scan. Yeah, the scan. All right, there you go.
I'm going to check my CAF gallery after this just to make sure I don't have any.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. So
Taskmaster is another character I get a decent amount of commissions from, and published pages too. In fact, one of my aforementioned grails would be his first appearance cover by George Perez. I would love that. Don't know who owns it. Don't know if it's ever been. I don't know if it's out there. I'm sure someone owns it. Don't know if it's ever been put up for sale or traded around, but I'd love to know who owns it and someday try and get it. But I think he's a great character visually. He's a character, honestly, if I had to be frank, I've had the most wonky, like I've had very few commissions where when I got them back, I was disappointed. But I would say of all the characters that I get frequently, Taskmaster is the most risky of them because he has a lot going on. So sometimes I think all the bells and whistles do make it hard for people to get right. Mm-hmm. This was not one of those cases, though. This is another Felix artist, Jeff Shaw, and love the action lines. And he did little things that you may not notice if you just take a quick glance at it. But like he has he's got the hammer, and he's got a rope and a lasso. It's cool because usually a lot of times you'll see Taskmaster with the sword and the shield. But I thought that Jeff really went above and beyond in putting some of the other replica weapons in there. And he's got the arrows quiver up there. So just a great piece. And I wanted to have at least one or two Taskmaster pieces for tonight's chat, because I do get a bunch of art of his as well.
Another great one from Felix. I mean, he delivers. He delivers. He coins the best phrases, right? I mean, he's got the wall power thing, but he came up with art drop right at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like he should trademark, all of these things that he comes up with, because he's just so on it when
listen. I mean,
marketing.
Imitation right? Flattery. I mean, lots of other reps have followed his model quite aggressively, right? In terms of how they market. The art drop concept is becoming much more standard now, right? Where you hype up the art drop and then you hope to sell out the majority. I mean, Titania, she's been doing that for the Mike McCone.
Yeah, those have done really well. Yeah,
you know, and she pretty much sells out of them like 99 pieces at a time. And Paolo has adopted that model at Cadence now for some of his big drops lately, and it's been working. And you know, Cam does that with his commission drops for Inky Knuckles, and I think all the reps should do it. I mean, because it's working, right? It works, and then also, I mean, Felix, you know, the wall power, and he also, I think, deserves the credit for selling complete issues. Occasionally, you'd hear stories like that, but it was rare, and now. Again, I'm seeing lots of other reps announce full sales of complete issues, which you never saw before Felix did it. So, he's a trailblazer.
I agree. Like I told you, I thought he was nuts when he first started, but I don't think that anymore.
Funny story. I met Felix at C2E2 years ago when Dragata was doing, when Nick Pitara was doing Manhattan Projects. And I was up just chit-chatting with Nick. I already owned pages for Manhattan Project, so I was chit-chatting with him. And Felix came up to Nick's table too, and he wasn't a rep at the time. And Felix, I didn't know him from Adam, and he jumped in the conversation and said, "Oh, you have art from Nick?" And I've showed him my Manhattan Projects pages, and he said, "Wow, those are you have a good eye. Those are great pages." I'm like, "Thanks a lot," you know. And I said, "Oh, do you collect art too?" You know, I didn't know Felix, and he said, "Yeah, a little bit," you know, and then I came to find out that was, as you probably know, Felix decided to become an art rep because of Pitara. He was so struck by Pitara's art, and they became friends. And he said, "I think I could make you a lot of money. Like, I think you're being underrepresented." And he was, so I was kind of, I was there at the impetus for him starting Felix Comic Art, just totally randomly. It's just like two strangers meeting briefly at a table.
Wow, I mean. Yeah, no, I haven't heard that story, but he did tell me that Nick was one of the big reasons for him wanting to become an art rep, and you know, it was a risk. I think a lot of people thought he was, you know, maybe making a crazy, you know, idea because you know, I mean, repping artists is hard. I mean, you either have to rep a lot. I mean, and I think that, you know, he approached it with the right mindset of being very selective with who he works with, and just working with people that he whose work he really appreciates. And so I think that. That's his advantage, you know, quality over quantity, and just a great business mind.
Yeah, I mean, he got a lot of these older collectors, these nostalgia collectors, who just never were into buying modern art at all. It just wasn't their interest, and he's gotten them to cross over, which has been interesting. You know, a lot of these guys are these phenomenal, you know, silver and bronze age collections that are now buying, you know, complete issues from of work that haven't even hit the stands yet. It's amazing to see.
I agree. All right, let's. This is another commission. Let me get this one up here.
Oh yeah, that. So, Serpent Society is another thing that I'm into. Quirky Marvel villain team, generally like the Royal Flush Gang or something like that. They're generally there just to be defeated. They haven't had too many like grand arcs, or they have rarely been legitimate threats, but. Even as a kid, I loved the visual aesthetic of having a bunch of different villains that had snake themes. And so it's one of those things where I think artists have fun with it because there are a lot of different visuals to play with. And generally what I'll do is if I can get someone that wants to do a team piece, I'll just say, I want you to do the Serpent Society, and I'll give them 2 or 3 members that I for sure want. And then I say, anyone else you want to put in is your choice. And this particular piece is by Dustin Weaver. And I have 2 Dustin Weaver commissions. The other is an Excalibur commission. And Dustin is probably one of the best commission artists alive, because if you look at, this is cover quality work. And I'm not going to say how much these cost, but they cost far less than you would think they would cost, given Dustin's profile and the amount of detail and time it took to do these pieces. So, I have a ton of Serpent Society team pieces that I really dig. And, but I guess if I had to pick one that sits at the top of the throne, it would be this one.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. I use that as the background on the show thumbnail too, because I loved all the images, but that one was just powerful, and
Yeah, I mean the
well
way Weaver
executed.
works, which is so different than most, for those that are watching that don't do a lot of commission work, generally what the way the commission works is an artist will have like a flat price for a different size page, like they'll have 11 by 17 price and 9 by 12, and that's usually for like a single figure, and then there'll be add-ons, there'll be add-ons for backgrounds or for multiple characters, and so a team piece is generally significantly expensive regardless of the artist because it's multiple characters and background and the like and composition. And Dustin, now he may change this, but the last few years he's taken just one list a year, and his model is flat fee and tell me what you want. So you can get a single character, you can get a cover recreation, or you can get like whatever you want, and it's like the same price, which is just a phenomenal bargain. And it's just the way he likes to do it. From his vision, it's like if I'm going to do a composed page, I don't care whether it's buildings in one character or 10 characters. I mean, what do I care? It's from his perspective, it's just the same process. So I wish more artists were like him in that regard. Most are not, but yeah, I mean, anytime Dustin has a spot available, I will be on that list if I can.
Very cool. I mean, you might get hit up from some people asking, how can they find, Dustin as far as like wanting to be able to get on a future list or something? Because that's
so
beauty.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to. I mean, his first list that I got, that Serpent Society, he just was just online on his socials. He just said, I have a small window to take some commissions, and just reach out to him, and I think it was like instant. I just happened to be lucky enough, and then. The last time he did his list through Cadence, actually through Paolo and Andrew. So I don't know if that's a ongoing thing, but I'm pretty sure it is because I think they sell his art now. Now I think about it, his covers there. So yeah, so I'd say your best chance would be to sign up for Cadence's mailing list, and when they like a lot of reps will email that list when there's a commission spot open. And to be clear, Dustin, I think that list was like a year and a half ago, and he hasn't done a list since. So I don't think it's very frequent. But you want to be ready to pounce if and when he does open his list again.
Well, Chris says he actually took a list during Comic Art Live. I missed that myself.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't know that. Yeah, but Cadence did have a booth, and I know that they were taking commissions. I didn't notice that he was on that list though. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. See, Comic Art Live, man, it surprises me all the time. I never get to see things that are going on there because I'm too busy flipping the switches and answering.
I got an amazing piece for a friend at the last Comic Art Live. Cool. My buddy doesn't have the budget to be a massive collector, but he does have a few nice pieces. And he, one of my podcast co-hosts, and he's a huge Chris Samnee fan, and also he's a huge Nexus fan. And just going through Comic Art Live, I saw a Samnee commission of Nexus characters. Wow. That one just one of your members had put up for sale and snagged it and gave it to him as a holiday present. So yeah, kudos to you.
We've all got to become friends if you're going to be giving away.
Well, this is my podcast partner.
I get it. All right.
13 years of very close friendship. So.
Right, and we haven't even talked about your podcast at all. I mean, a little bit of backstory on that. I mean, I'd like to turn people onto it if they haven't heard.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I mean, I'm one of the 3 co-hosts of a podcast called 11 O'Clock Comics. 11o'clockcomics.com if you're interested. But we've been going for 13 years. We're one of the earliest, not the earliest, but one of the earliest. And, as a result, we've I just was joking because we've stuck around. We've built a pretty sizable audience. And, but yeah, we've done 6 episodes a month for 13 years, never missed a week.
Wow.
No, I mean, like one of us are, but collectively we've never missed a week. And
right, that's hard. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, and it's audio, it's long form. We generally talk for 2.5, 3 hours at a time, and we really run the gamut. We're three collectors. I'm in our 40s and early 50s, and we've just got a passion for all things comics. So we really have no set agenda. I mean, we talk about anything from stuff that's hot off the shelves to, favorite comic strips from the 50s to the Filipino invasion, to whatever. I mean, really it's whatever we feel like talking about. And we'll, occasionally do like a theme episode. And then we have guests on pretty frequently. Like we had Jeff Lemire on last week and had a nice chat with him, But nice. Yeah, I mean, so we love it. It's like many things that are passions. We started it just as a way to spend some time together each week and decompress and talk about comics. And it just kind of morphed into this thing. When we started podcasts where nobody knew what a podcast was, and certainly was no thought to like making money or gaining like any kind of notoriety from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we stuck at it, and I was coaxed into it by my friend Vince. I told him I was too busy 13 years ago to do a weekly show, and somehow he's got me doing a 6 times a month show for 13 years. So it shows you how much fun we have doing it. And yeah, so people can check it out. It's on all the podcatchers. 11 o'clock comics. You can go to the website, or you can go to Facebook. We have a like a 4,000 or 5,000 person Facebook group that's always talking comics. And yeah, it's if people can check it out, awesome. If not, it's all good. One of the things I always say is, podcasts, there's, for everyone that comes back and listens, there's probably 10 that think we're a bunch of jerk offs and don't want to listen. So that's the nature of the beast, right? There's lots of stuff out there.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Well, I will correct the fact that I didn't link your CAF Gallery into the YouTube description, but I also will put in the link to your podcast as well.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Nope, not a problem. Not a problem at all. And Rodney says he's waiting. Where is it? What he says? I'm waiting for Jason to talk about Doctor Who.
Yeah, EOC is our short 11 o'clock comics. EOC. Yep. Rod is a longtime friend and listener of the show. We have a pretty cool Patreon community, and we have I don't know if it was Slack, like the online the chat.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Slack that's dedicated to patrons of a certain tier, and Rod is a very frequent participant in that, and he is a absolute ravenous Doctor Who fan. He actually collects he collects Doctor Who comic art like voraciously, and he's just making fun of the fact that I listen. No disrespect to people listening right now, but I find Doctor Who insufferable. It does not do anything for me. My co-hosts love it though, so we're not an anti-Doctor Who show, but you will not find me talking about the latest season or the new actors who were chosen to be the new Doctor. It's just not my thing. Not my thing.
Well, I've never been a Doctor Who fan, but my wife is, and so I probably own 6 or 7 published pieces of comic art.
Oh, nice. There you go.
To Doctor Who. So yeah.
Well, Rod, there you go. See that? So talk to Bill.
You can check out my CAF Gallery, Rodney, and you'll see some pretty neat pieces. I've got a few painted pieces, but mostly older interior pen and ink work. So
nice.
Yep. Let's see. We've got 2 more pieces here. So let's see this one here.
Yeah, so a lot of the talk is understandably focused around commissions because that is certainly the majority of my collection. But like I said, I have close to 200 published pages, and this one's cool because first of all, it's Jim Chung, huge Jim Chung fan, and this is from Infinity, and I thought it was cool to show off because like I said, I just buy art that speaks to me from artists that I dig. Infinity isn't a particularly important comic per se, but this is the Black Order, and this was from their first appearance. So this page is from their first appearance, which it's cool because obviously this is long before they appeared in the films. And I just thought it was neat that I own a first appearance of characters that were a big part of the MCU, and I think it's a beautiful rendering as well. It's a really well done piece, and one of my favorite Chung pieces that I own. So
very, very nice. Yeah. No. Now, did you pick it out because it was a first appearance type of thing, or you just love the art?
Yeah, no, I mean, I bought that piece from Jim directly. He has a rep now, but at an early New York Comic Con, I went up to his table. Unfortunately, he wasn't taking commissions, but I said, "Oh, do you have pages for sale?" And he pulled out his Itoyas, and I looked through, and that page just spoke to me. The series had just come out, and I thought I'm a big Hickman fan as well, and I thought the series was a lot of fun, and I just thought, it was a great visual, and it was a reasonably priced page, I think, because again, even though it was first appearance of those characters, they were villains. I think people probably weren't sure would ever be seen again, right? I don't at the time.
Oh, yeah,
so
sure.
Yeah, so just the page spoke to me. I bought actually a couple pages at the same time from him, but it just ended up again like through happenstance that the characters became more important, if you will, in the in pop culture ethos.
Right. No, it's always good to you just never know, right?
You never know. Yeah, that's why you should buy what you love.
Exactly.
If you have good case, it'll take care of itself. And then this is so as you can see probably from the big signature up top, it's I know I do something that probably breaks a lot of collectors' hearts. I often get art, including published pages, signed to Jason, which I know is theoretically bad if you're trying to resell them, but but I don't generally try and resell them. But this is by Wes Craig, and it's from Deadly Class. I'm a massive Wes Craig fan, massive Rick Remender fan as well. I think most of Rick's career-owned work has been stellar, and he always has great artistic partners, including the aforementioned Matteo Scalera with Black Science. But yeah, so I own probably like 10 Deadly Class pages. And this one I thought was cool, and the one I picked is because you see the purple ink wash over it. Most of Wes's pages are black and white. He inks himself, but there were a few pages for a few issues where he was playing with like these color ink washes over them before the book was then subsequently colored for publication. So, that's an unusual effect. You don't see that a lot. Like, so the page itself is purple, which is neat. And I just wanted to, it was tough figuring out which Wes Craig page I wanted to show off, but I ultimately chose this one because of the color wash.
Now, this is a fantastic image. I love it. I love the way the wash is done too. Wow. Yeah,
and one of the most heartbreaking moments of my fandom was when the Deadly Class television show was not renewed for a second season. So, that was a heartbreaker. Thought that was a great show.
And Clinton agrees as well.
Agreed, Clinton.
Wow. No, that's I love everything you've shown tonight to me. You've got an amazing collection. Yeah, thanks, this is man. Great. No, it's I love all art, but yeah, it's just cool. I mean, I love seeing a nice mix of the commission pieces and the published pieces, and the literature pieces are even like I say, though they might be my favorite.
I appreciate that. It was fun to. One of the reasons as I said in the beginning, that I love CAF, and I'm happy to be a premium member, and I'm literally on the site at least for some reason every day, pretty much. But I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I don't think I would be the collector I am and be as passionate without CAF, because it just, I'm very sort of, again, as I said, I'm in finance, I'm analytical in all things. So to have a place that I can systematically have my collection and have it there to be not just to be seen by others, but for me to be able to see and kind of take in totality, like the artists and the themes that I have, it just helps me kind of process it all and have it there. And again, because I have all of my art here in my home, but it's a lot of it is stored in flat drawers, and and I don't see it with my eyes very often, but I can see it any day I want on CAF. So like, it's just great. And it really just helped me. And so when we had the chance to do this, I was stoked, and it was really fun to, I don't very often audit my collection. So it was fun to kind of, I viewed it like a puzzle when you said, well, we're going to like pick X number of pieces. And I thought, well, it was fun to kind of try and find like one or two representative pieces of each of the little corners of the art collecting world that matter to me, and I've watched some of the other episodes, and it's cool to see other people do the same. And also, how some people are just very wide, other people are very tight, and it's just neat to see. Just the great thing about being a collector of anything is there's no rules, right? Just whatever speaks to you and whatever works. And
especially for our hobby, right? I mean,
and like also, and we're living through it right now where a lot of people, I think, do generally come at it from the nostalgia, like they want to own pages that matter to them from their childhood or their current fandom. And I get that. And it's becoming seriously hard. Unless you have a significant resource. And I do try and rep for, I know commissions aren't for everybody. But I really do try and rep everywhere I can, like in other collecting groups and stuff, that like you can, if you're into the art, you can have amazing art, including art of your favorite characters for reasonable prices. I'm not going to lie to people and say that my collection isn't a very expensive collection, like in the grand scheme of things, it is. But like I am just as apt to buy $100 commission from a person that's never published a comic book page yet, that I just see on Instagram and think they have a cool style, as I am to win a heritage auction like I did with the Jack Davis. And so if you are on a budget, like this hobby does not preclude you. Like, it's just, you have to kind of rethink how you're going to collect or what you're going to collect. But if it just isn't really about the art, like this price explosion shouldn't keep you out of being a collector, is my point. I'm not going to say it's definitely harder, right? It's harder to be a comic art collector today than it was a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but it's by no means impossible. It's like, of those 180 commissions I mentioned that I've gotten over the pandemic, I would say the vast majority are, sub $500 pieces, right? Which, and I'm not trying to say that $300, $400, or $500 isn't a lot of money for a lot of people. I get that, but I'm saying, but like, if you are an art collector, you can budget that, and that's like a reasonable price for a great piece of art. I mean, that you so a one of a kind thing. So I just think that the hobby is still very accessible if you're willing to be creative in the way you pursue it.
Sure. I mean, that's been one of my concerns about the recent pricing, and because it's gotten a lot of press, is that it is keeping new collectors from even dabbling in it or really understanding that they can break into the hobby with lower end published pieces, or like you getting work direct from artists as far as commissions and those sorts of things. But yeah, because when you're new, you just don't really know what your avenues and opportunities are.
Yeah, that's true.
And the press has just been the point where the comic art world and the comic world has just been blowing up, and I think that concerns me, at least right now, that I think it does keep people from even getting interested in the hobby. So I hope that in some way, by doing these shows and talking about the prices on certain things, it helps people realize there are affordable ways to still get into the hobby and enjoy it as much as a new collector, as somebody who's been in the hobby for 30 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the other cool thing is, and you see this a bit with the dueling dealers, but certain dealers in particular have, I mean, Anthony, is one of at the top of that list, probably have very affordable published art from decades old that are from those books that you're nostalgic for, and the like, and are totally affordable. At least there are pages that are affordable. And so yeah, I mean, like I said, it's an amazing, like, I love art in general. I mean, my wife and I collect other non-comic art as well that she lets hang up on the walls in the house. But I just my dad's an artist, he's a professional artist, that's how he makes his living. So yeah, I love it, and I just definitely want to see it proliferate. And the thing that's cool about commissions or taking a chance is again, like, you're supporting the industry, right? Like, I don't begrudge anybody from buying a piece that speaks to them through a dealer. Like, that's totally fine. But if you buy a commission, you're supporting the artist directly. If you buy a page from their rep, you're the first one to buy it, you're supporting them directly. And that's important to me. Like a huge part of my collection is about supporting the creators that I really am passionate about. So I mean, that's for me, that's a big part of my focus. Again, if that's for other people, it doesn't have to be, but for me, like, being able to support the creators and make sure that I'm putting money in their pocket is a huge part of why I do what I do. Sure.
I mean, when I go to shows, I typically, I have my budget that I bring with me, but I try to buy as much as I can and direct from the artist, because I'd rather have 10 $200 pages or pieces that I'm going to pick up at the show and have put money into 10 different people's hands, versus just picking up one $2,000 piece because it really is the best. I mean, I can do that anytime, when I'm not at a show, but when I go to shows, like that IX art show that's in Pennsylvania every year, I go there with that mindset, for the whole time. I've got my budget, but I want to buy at least 6 to 8 things, because I want to patronize as many people as I can while I'm there. And I just think that that's my philosophy too. So I never walk away with a home run piece, but I come back with a lot of great artwork, and I enjoy that too.
I mean, it's just, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't put the genie back in the bottle, but it just, I think about what it would be like for, Kirby or Buscema or some of these guys to have lived to this point and had some of their art that they could monetize, which again is why I love to see these current artists that are selling complete issues and selling their art for thousands of dollars. Like, that's great, because you have the all-time greats who, unfortunately, for reasons we don't have to get into tonight, but as we know, they just they didn't have the foresight, and the industry didn't treat the art beyond, and so they didn't get the benefits of this financially. That I mean, just think about it, right? I mean, there's life-changing wealth for, some of these collectors. I mean, Berkey and Albert. I mean, they have collections that are life-changing wealth if the original artists own those pages now, right? So it's
sure.
It's just, I don't know no modern artist will probably ever reach that level of value or historical importance, but you never know, right? You just never know. So So it's great that they can.
I know only time will tell. I mean, like, 30 years ago seems like a long time ago, but we look at that. And there was a conversation in the thread earlier with people saying, well, 30 years ago we're calling it modern still, the early 90s. And
I had a friend, another guy who's also named Jason, and I remember like 10 years ago him saying that like Copper Age and modern age comics would be super valuable. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, no, like, there by that time we all bagged and boarded our stuff, and there's 1,000 near mint copies of it, and he was right, and his viewpoint was you're underestimating the power of nostalgia, that every generation gets to a point where a certain percentage of that generation has the wealth and the means and the passion to collect these things in a way that elevates them. Mm-hmm. And it happens with everything, with every genre, every generation, and you just have to wait it out. And he was absolutely right. And I think for lots of things are driving prices up, but we're at that point now where people your age and my age, our generation has gotten wealthy, meaning in the aggregate, like your late 40s, early 50s are when people are retiring, monetizing, gaining wealth, having excess cash. And so, I mean, people are like, I want it, so I'm going to buy it, and they can afford it. And that's
why 90s art is, exploding right now, 90s published art. And
absolutely,
it is the hottest, I mean, as well as modern art, but the 90s art is really surpassing, the 70s and 80s artwork. When you see certain pieces from the 90s going higher than a Kirby cover, those, from the late 60s or 70s, it tells you that there's a lot of nostalgia and appreciation going on for that area. And those people are, they're in our, your mid 40s to your mid 50s. And,
I mean, the only unfortunate thing for the next generation is that more and more artists are working digitally,
we lament it a lot on the different shows that we have.
And there's artist proofs, which again, I mean, I'd like to think I'm open-minded. My basic view is that artist proofs aren't worth much, but then I see like color guides, I guess they could be worth something. So like I do own a few artist proofs, again, just because I like the art itself and it wasn't expensive, but I don't think it's something, like I don't view it as something that's likely to appreciate value. But maybe I'm wrong, right? Because the world is moving digital. Maybe in 10 years, the average comic art collector will view artist proofs in a way that we don't, because that'll be the medium that they're used to, and they don't view digital as being lesser than the physical image.
Well, I know I've had this talk with Berkey a few times too, and and he's like, well, I look at it like this. He says that 10, 15 years ago, people didn't really value cover prelims very much, because they'd rather have the published piece. And now you look at cover prelims are now affordable, but they're still very expensive because you can't afford the cover, and you can't afford a major splash from that book, but you can get a cover prelim. So things that would have been throwaways or considered worthless 15, 20 years ago are now worth, I
mean, Berkey just sold a Romita Spider-Man head sketch on an envelope on $2 for $1,000. So I think
right, exactly. So you look at that, and then you look at things like prelims and cover prelims and those sorts of things. You don't know where things will be in 20 years, and so sure, those monoprints might not appreciate the same way a Dave Cockrum cover prelim may have, 20 years or 25 years after it was done, but they may. I mean, we won't know. It's too hard to imagine, because I'm sure back 25 years ago, the guy who was looking at that Cockrum marker cover prelim probably thought it wasn't going to be worth $20 ever, and here it is today. It's the one thing that you can buy. So people, at least at my collecting level. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, as I said, the open show, thanks so much for all that you do, man, with CAF. I mean, I do think, I hope you take some time to appreciate the role you've played in creating this world and this ecosystem. I just, not beyond my personal collection, but I've met tons of great people and friends, and just through the site, and just discovering new art and people that share passions for these little niches. There are a few other like domino guys. There's not many of us, but there's a few, and
right.
Then you have, so it's fun. It's neat, and it's neat to, when you get a message through CAF from a collector that you covet, and you're like, and like I won't say who because I don't know that, but someone DM'd me the other day, and like they have, in my opinion, like one of the 5 best comic art collections in the world, and they liked Moby Dick stuff. They were like, "That's a great idea," and I thought, "Oh, this is cool," like, and again, like it's
Right.
it's like a little fanboyish, but it's like, again, I mean, I would, I just think they have a great eye, and they've amassed a legendary collection, and the fact that they would notice my art, my little niche, my little corner of the market is flattering, but it's all because of CAF, because discovery, like somebody probably showed off my post to them, or they Googled Moby Dick. I don't know. I don't know how they found it.
Right. Exactly. No, I feel the same way. Trust me. I mean,
yeah.
I feel very fortunate to have done what we did, and and we did it for all the right reasons. I did it because I just wanted a site that could accommodate what I wanted out of something for art collectors. So it was very altruistic. And I think that benefited the way we approached it. We didn't approach it as a business, but I get the same way. Feeling when somebody emails me that I really respect and has something nice to say about something in my collection, and it's very flattering, and I feel giddy, when I get it.
For sure.
But it happens because it doesn't happen often. But that's the great thing about CAF. I mean, you can discover other collectors and really admire their collections and get to know them through the art that they collect. And we've talked about those aspects of the hobby a lot, where you can really kind of understand a collector based on their collections, and you can watch, and because of CAF, you can see how they progress as a collector over 5 or 10 years, and really that's the beauty, I think, of CAF, and really the thing that I appreciate the most about it is just seeing how much everyone appreciates the hobby. And and more importantly, I built CAF because I was a person that wanted to share my collection, and I think that, and so I don't begrudge people that don't want to, but I really appreciate the people that do, and that take the time to scan things really well, and to organize their CAF galleries in a way that that makes it easy for people to browse, and so while until we started doing these live streams, I didn't focus on a lot of that, but I see it now, and I see the attention to detail that people have put in their galleries. And like you said earlier, you use CAF as a means of looking at your collection frequently. And that was something that, as a trait, I didn't know anybody did. I just thought that they were more concerned about other people seeing it. But I've heard it from many people that they can't go into their flat files or dig out their portfolios, and CAF is really their way of appreciating their own collection. And so yeah, I think I don't take it for granted that we're in this position to have done what we've done for the hobby. So no, I thank you. I really appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, for sure. Keep up the great work. I really appreciate you having me on.
No.
And I look forward to you coming on our show to chat about, and I guess we'll hear about this golf course when I
yeah, exactly. So yeah, don't watch any of the other podcasts. It'll all be, or any of the other shows I've done. You'll be able to hear it all for the first time. And so everybody, when I do that, I will certainly let everybody know when we're going to have that and what the links will be for that, so you can listen to it after we do it. And it'll be great. I mean, I've only been interviewed a couple times in the 18 plus years that I've been doing this, so it'll be a good talk.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, let's again, thank you everybody for being in the chat. Very consistent group of 70 plus for the majority of the show. So thank you for tuning in. And hey, Nick, you're a late arrival. Nick Ferrucci, he's always in here like trying to get us likes and things on every show that we do. But nice to see you this evening, Nick, and everyone as well for tuning in this evening. And JC, again, thanks so much for sharing your collection and your story with us this evening.
That was a great pleasure. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Good night, everybody.